welcome to what I think is episode 5 of the Sales Syndicate podcast. So this week we are speaking with Sean Anderson from Hoxo, which I think leads on really, really nicely from last week's episode. We spoke to Aaron Hawthorne, who you hired, who works for you, who you've known for a good number of years, who basically gave us a bit of a 30-minute rundown and sort of demystifying personal branding and social selling, which is obviously what you guys are all about. But just to kick us off, do you want to give us a rundown of yourself, and then maybe just go really sort of nicely into the Hoxo ethos and brand?
Sure, yeah. So as you said, I'm Sean. I'm the founder of Hoxo. Really high level. I'm an ex-recruiter I'm an ex-school teacher who became a recruiter in 2011 when I went traveling, landed in Australia. I then moved back to the UK, moved to London in 2012. So I did about 18 months in Australia. Moved to London. I'm not from London. And then I was in recruitment for 5 years in London. And then I was about to start Hoxo, the recruitment agency. I was a top billing recruiter with my best mate who was also in the business. And Hoxo was a recruitment firm. We had our CRM bullhorn and everything ready. But back in 2016, I was pretty interested in innovation, and I used to listen to a lot of podcasts, and I used to watch a lot of YouTube and Instagram, and I don't know, I just had this brainwave or this vision that recruitment was going to need to get more social. And, you know, in the past, it was always about sales skills on the phone and in meetings, and I was good, you know, and I'd never produced a piece of content in my life, but I had this vision that Hoxo, the recruitment firm, was going to be built on brand. It was going to be a content-first business. Also, when I looked at my non-compete clause in my contract, I realized there's nothing in it that says I can't talk to people online. It's just, I can't ring them. So I had this really exciting, I remember I had a night where I didn't sleep in 2016. I was like, I'm going to literally educate the insurance market on all sorts. I'm going to talk to everyone for 6 months. And then when my covenant's over, everyone's going to be like, Sean, like they all knew me anyway, but know me on a different level. Long story short, I went out to find someone that could help me do it. I went out to find a marketing agency, branding company, someone who understood this world and understood recruitment. And honestly, I couldn't find it. I was uninspired by what I met. So I decided to bring someone I knew on board and convince my business partner that we could build a business that would be able to deliver what I wanted for me, but to the industry. We always knew that if it failed, we'd just go back to recruitment 6 months later anyway. So we launched Hoxo Media, and that was in March 2017. Now, so coming up to a 6-year anniversary in March, we're now in November. There's just under 40 members of staff. We're working with well over 4,000 individual recruiters right now, and over 200 recruitment agencies around the world in every continent. And We've built a brand, I believe, in the sector that is synonymous with brand, with this modern social change. And I've been the epicenter of that personally by building my personal brand from March 2017. So I've posted on LinkedIn every working day pretty much since I started Hoxo. I never did anything before. And as a result, I get like 1 million views a month on LinkedIn. I get all this global reach, and I've tried to be the change that I felt the industry would see, and it has. You know, people on LinkedIn are changing. It's become this social platform, and it's become so important to our sector. So what we do now is really simple. We build brands for recruitment businesses, so we can manage the branding of their company. That's website, logo, color scheme, story, all of that. We can do the hard graft, but we also can either manage or coach the individuals in the business, the leaders, the owners, the consultants, how they can all contribute by building a singular brand themselves. They can contribute to the business on a wider scale and scale the voice of themselves and the agency way further than picking up the phone.
If we take a little rewind on some of the things you said then. So you started out as a teacher. So what did you teach?
PE. So I was a high school PE teacher back in 2009. Yeah, I qualified in 2008-9, did it from 2009-10, then I went traveling. So I was a 21 to 23-year-old teacher. I was quite a young guy doing it. But I mean, I enjoyed it at the time. I loved it.
And then what sort of pushed you into recruitment?
Well, there was a window in between at university and actually going into schools, and I worked in sales for 6 months. I was knocking on doors. It was horrific. It was literally the worst job ever. But it was one. Do you know when people knock on your door and they sign you up to charities and things? Well, that's what I was doing. And the premise of it, whilst it was noble to sign people to charity, if I'm brutally honest, was all about being your own boss. It was like this big pyramid scheme where you'd build up a certain amount of business, you'd then hire people, you'd train people, and you'd end up opening an office in the UK. And I was really, I don't know, I loved the entrepreneurial flair. Like I got to a point with the job, I was like, I was on zero salary and all commission, and I just didn't trust them. I felt like it wasn't for me the way that it was being ran. But once I then got into teaching, because my business partner, who's also an ex-teacher, was working in schools, and he was like, do what I'm doing. So I did it, and I loved it. But I think throughout my teaching career, I missed out. I felt limited by the fact that my career salary was the same. There was no way of earning extra money. There was no entrepreneurial flair there. There was no dreaming big about next year. So what I did as a teacher, I channeled all my dreams into my traveling trip. So for 2 years as a teacher, every day, every week, all I talked about was going traveling. I didn't tell the school, but at home, and I left in 2010. I went to India and Asia, and then I lived in Australia. I did this 2-year trip that I planned. But that was me dreaming. And once I got to Australia, I needed to then get a job, and I felt like I needed to dream in the job. Like it just didn't appeal to me to go and get a job where the year was mapped out, So a friend of mine got into recruitment, and that's how I got into it. And it always provided me that platform to create, what could next year look like, and I love that feeling, even though there's a lot of uncertainty in there. I really enjoy it.
So what sort of verticals did you recruit for?
In Australia, I was put in the commercial IT team. So it was like project management, business analysis, technology, like development, software, but also infrastructure engineering. And then I got put into this government team where I worked across the state government and doing those roles. And then when I moved to the UK, I wanted to stay in a similar world. So I recruited into the business change and transformation market of the insurance world, London insurance market. And again, it was project management, business analysis, some technology. So effectively, when companies are implementing change projects, new systems, new processes, I recruited the staff that would go in and on a contract basis work in those corporate organizations to implement those changes. I never did any perm recruitment in my whole career. I did one perm deal because I put a contractor on interview, and they were like, they sold him a perm job and he took it. But I never got a chance to do perm. I never wanted to do perm. I loved contract. It suited me.
So I asked Aaron the same question. It was basically, there's a lot of people who are probably thinking, and I said literally exactly the same thing on the last episode. There's a lot of people probably thinking, what does recruitment have to do with sales? But I said that, you're selling people, you're selling careers, you're selling businesses for people to work at, aren't you? So are there massive or are there major correlations between the two?
Yeah, I mean, you get a lot of people who say recruitment isn't sales. I'm like, I think everything's a form of sales. Getting your kids to pick up the uniform at night off the floor is sales. Like, you need to have an ability to influence people to move in a direction that you want. And recruitment is ultimate sales job, I think, because you've got to be consultative, but you do have to convince people that, firstly, to trust you, to work with you, to give you their time. That's the hardest bit at the beginning. Then you've got to convince clients that you're worthy of their vacancies, which they could give to, let's face it, it's such a competitive market. They could go to anyone. It's not like, that's the thing about recruitment. It's a necessary evil. It's not a glamorous sell. It's not a glamorous purchase. No one's ever woke up and gone, I can't wait to buy a recruitment service today. Like, it's never happened. So and it's super competitive. So you've got to get a client on board and maintain that client. There's a huge sales job going on there. You've got to consistently reinforce a message that you are the preferred supplier for them, and then you've got to deliver. And to deliver, you've got to sell to people. You've got to convince people that these companies are worth, taking that risk. Now, there's a huge assessment and selection process there that perhaps isn't as salesy, where you're reading CVs, you're deciding whether or not someone is right on behalf of an organization. But I mean, look, at the end of the day, it's a revenue generating business. It's a cash generating business. Anyone in recruitment has got a target on their head. And if they don't meet that target over time, they won't be in the business. So that alone tells you it's a sales job. Internal recruitment maybe is slightly different when it's you're not got a fee on your head. You're more of a, time to hire, number of hire. Still though, if you don't meet your targets in that world, you're not going to be kept in. So it's a real performance related industry, which I believe requires, it's such a high level of sales skills to perform well.
Yeah, I mean, if you just break down your average day or your average week in recruitment, what's the stat? I think the latest stat is something like 40% of your time is spent prospecting and research, or BD, whatever you want to call it. And that's exactly the same for sales. You still have to do all the BD, the prospecting, which is 40, 50, 60% of your time. So the largest portion of your week is still exactly the same as sales, isn't it? So yeah, no, I completely agree. I think my partner works in recruitment, and she hates the cold calling BD part of it, but she brings in a hell of a lot of roles in her own way, which I guess more so pancaking, flipping, whatever you want to call it.
Never heard that one, pancaking. Never heard that.
Yeah, you flip the pancake. Flipping roles for flipping candidates, and I think it's just a different form of sales, isn't it? Okay, then. So if we go into the interesting part of the chat, let's say, which is what we want to share is off the back of the personal branding and social selling chat that we had with Aaron last week, is that we hope that we've sparked a bit of interest in people that don't currently work on their personal brand, or perhaps don't do enough of it and want to get into it or want to get better at it. And chatting to you, I'm hoping to share some of those actionable insights, tips, tricks, stories of how you did it, or, how the company did it, what the company teaches people how to do in that initial period. So people can just, after this episode, go on LinkedIn and go
make a few changes. Yeah. Well, let's go back to, no one wakes up wanting to do personal branding. Let's just be honest, right? It's not, the process isn't the appealing bit. It's the result. Like, you don't go to a personal trainer and get excited by the plan he has for you. You get excited by the picture of the six pack, right? And the results that he's showing you, she's showing you, right? So it's, sorry, you can hear my dog in the background. That's real working from home life. But ultimately, it's about why. What are the results you're going to get from this? Why would you build a brand on LinkedIn as a recruiter in 2020, or as a salesperson? Why? And the answer is really, really simple. Okay. You are limited. If you do not do this, you're limited by the time and the amount of calls you can make, the time you can put in, and the amount of people you can speak to. So on an average day, a good salesperson will have good quality conversations with 10, maybe 15 people. I think if you're having more than 15 quality chats in a day, you're going to blow up your mind. Like, it's intense, especially since the pandemic, when we're back to back on Zooms. Like, I've got so many calls planned today. I haven't got a minute to make any prospecting calls today, right? Not one. So when you booked, we didn't even have booked calls back in the day. It was all just generated, and you'd have a booked meeting, but face to face, but you didn't book calls in like you do now. So everyone is limited by the same amount of hours on the same amount of days. What building a brand on a platform like LinkedIn allows you to do is scale yourself. Scale yourself to a completely different level than you can with 15 calls a day. So an average person on LinkedIn with a very small to average network will get 1,000 views on a post. If they write anything about anything, right now, 1,000 eyeballs will see what you've said. And I think it's important to just take a second and think, that's 1,000 eyeballs. It's not, if you lined 1,000 people up outside your office or your room or wherever the hell you are listening to this, it's a lot of people. It's a hell of a lot of people. Now, if you're connecting to the right people and you're talking about things that is relevant to those people and going to help those people, it's going to be valuable, it's going to be interesting, going to be entertaining, then what's going to happen is they're going to start to see you more and more. These little views, this little number, this impressions number on LinkedIn is going to grow. And again, based on the connections you have being accurate, if you've got a connection base full of people that are irrelevant to whatever you sell, then you're not going to be building a brand in the right direction. But if you're consistently connecting with the people that you're trying to prospect to, or you're dealing with your existing customers even better. And then you're communicating your life, your thoughts, your mindset, your experience on LinkedIn. What's happening is every day you're laying bricks. You're laying bricks with people. Your face, your voice, your name is becoming more and more and more familiar. And that has two impacts. One, when you reach out and prospect, if people recognize you, the chances of them engaging with you are dramatically higher. Think about it now. Jamie, if you got a prospecting call from someone you've never heard of, from a company you've never heard of, about a system or service you've never thought of, you're probably not going to give them much time. Yeah, if you get a call off a guy you've followed on LinkedIn and you think he's pretty cool and you recognize the brand and you're like, maybe I don't know if I want it, but you probably listen to him. You give him some more of your time, you know? Same in recruitment. How many candidates and clients get calls off that one recruiter once that they didn't even remember what the agency was called and they never hear from them again. It happens every minute of every day. So to be different, you want to be someone that people genuinely understand, follow, have familiarity with, and ideally buy into your ideas, your concepts, your thoughts. Because what happens is then when you reach out, you get higher response rates. People actually give you more time. I DM people every day as part of my strategy, right? I send voice notes on LinkedIn. And I couldn't tell you the exact conversion rate, but it's so high. I send 5 a day. I get 3, 4, 5 responses every day. And that drives my sales chats after. So it's like, it makes so much difference when you reach out and people know you. Now, the final bit of once people start to continually know you and you talk about similar topics consistently, they'll come to you when they need you. So you get inbound business. It's even better. It's even better when someone goes, "Hey, Sean, can we have a chat about your services?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure you can." I have that all day.
Yeah, have you got any friends? Have you got any cousins?
But if you think about it, all we've ever had in recruitment and sales is referrals, offline referrals, where they've gone, "I spoke to Jamie, he did a great job, have a chat to him." And someone then messages you out the blue or phones you and goes, "Hey, I know Jamie Pagan, you've worked with him, can we have a chat?" And you're like, yes. Everyone would want that all day, every day. Unfortunately, that's so reliant on other people talking about you, and it's all reliant on them people meeting and being in the same bar or cafe or restaurant. We can guarantee everyone on LinkedIn that you're dealing with are going to be returning to the platform semi-regularly. They're all going to have connections, and that's how, in a modern sense, it scales just so much faster than you're still going to get those chats that you always had. But now you're going to get a completely new layer of referral and awareness of who you are that is only possible through social media right now.
There was something you said at the start where it was, there is a maximum amount of time that anyone has in any one day. And it reminded me of something that The Rock said. And it was something like, right, you've got 24 hours, that cliche, you've got 24 hours in a day. You sleep for 8, you eat for an hour, you train for an hour. That still leaves you a massive part of your day. And I think what you're saying is, right, the working day is only 8, 9, 10 hours, whatever you want to work. But whilst you're sleeping or whilst you're eating or chilling out on the sofa or doing a bit of research and not actively selling, not actively calling, the stuff that you're doing on LinkedIn or putting out there on TikTok, whatever it is doing work for you in the background, which I think that's like a really nice way of thinking about it, is this, that you're helping yourself and giving yourself more time by investing into this thing that's going to be doing work for you.
Without a doubt. And honestly, if people could see the results of the future before they did it, they'd do it. Like, there'd be no question mark. But so many people in sales work on such a short-term mindset. They don't believe in delayed gratification. They want to see ROI on every activity of every day. And therefore they stick to things they've always known that work.
I think it's an old school mindset, isn't it? That you think traditionally, right, you've got your number to hit, go at it and do it as fast as you possibly can, no matter the costs, right? But there's never been that long game approach, as there. It's quick wins, or it's big wins as quickly as possible. Whereas if you play the long game, you've got that compounding interest effect that Warren Buffett always goes on about.
Yeah.
That snowball effect.
The thing is, you don't need to pick one either. Like, it's not like the kind of mutually exclusive, you know. You can do both. You can do both. If you're a killer on the phone every day and you've got that routine, then you need to add about 15 minutes a day to then get out on LinkedIn and do some stuff that just makes your life easier. But there's people, like you said, like your partner, that doesn't want to necessarily do cold calling, and they're not. Again, look, I don't know how old you are, but at my age, 36 years old, I grew up in a world where I used to knock on people's doors to see if they were in at home, my mates. I walked around the block and knocked on their house and said, "Is John in?" Or sure, I rang their house number. I phoned
landline.
Landline. I knew all my mates' mobile landlines off my head, and I phoned them all. And I said, "Hey, is Sean in?" And you'd get his brother or his uncle or whatever, and he'd be like, "Oh no, he's not there." So I got rejected and phoned blind all the time. Someone who's coming into work now at the age of 21 probably didn't do any of those things, and definitely my stepkids now at 7 and 9, they will not be doing any of those things. Right? Everything's text, everything's WhatsApp, everything's online, social. So the world, there's people coming into the sector, and there's a lot of people that don't want to phone blind. They just don't want to do it. That doesn't mean they can't communicate to people a different way and open up conversations a different way and make as much, if not more, money. I actually think the combination of the two is the killer skill. So if you can still sell, you can still impact on the phone, you can still reach people, but you also have this brand layer building, I think you're so dangerous, because I'm really grateful I was trained in a way that I can pick up the phone and make things happen, but I've also built my own awareness of this. So I've combined the two, and I love it.
Yeah, no, I think that hybrid approach is definitely the way forward, because even if you had a personal brand in the 99th percentile, tip-top brand, and you picked up the phone and you just couldn't talk. You didn't have gift of the gab, whatever you want to call it. You didn't have the skill set needed to actually.
You're not going to make any money, no.
Exactly. Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of conversations, because people are going to come to you saying, "I've seen your stuff. It looks great. Let's have a chat." And then when you have a chat, it's going to be like, "I'm not interested. Thanks."
I know people on LinkedIn who do amazing. They get so many views and engagements, but they move a lot of jobs, and you think, why? It's because they can't sell. They never make any money out of it. Whereas I think if you've already got the sales skills, which is what I think our sector does teach people really well, then adding this layer on top is going to add so much value.
Okay, then. So let's talk about adding that layer on top then. So we're obviously, just to recap quickly, we're not saying that cold calling's dead. We're not saying that you're not going to have to sell. That is a fundamental core part of your day to day.
I think over time, you won't need to cold call if you do this right. Like, I've not cold called anyone in 3 years, 4 years. No chance. I wouldn't do it. There's no need for me to do it. But if I'm starting off in a career, and that's, yeah, of course, but I think it's a really inefficient use of time. You want to get into some practical tips. I look at it in 4 ways. Right, there's 4 kind of pillars to this. The first one is, what does your LinkedIn account look like? So let's go to LinkedIn. If I looked at your LinkedIn today and you're in sales, does it accurately reflect everything you want it to reflect as a profile? Because ultimately your profile is like a mini website owned by you. So the way your face looks on the picture, the way your banner is behind your face, the words you choose to use in your headline and your bio, the case studies, the testimonials, the recommendations, whatever, does it accurately say in a very quick, I'm talking like 5 seconds, would I know what you do? Would I firstly know what you do? And then when I read on, would I be compelled to connect with you based on what I'm reading?
Let's take right. My LinkedIn, I've not looked at it with that mindset, right? So if you open my LinkedIn now, let's go through it, right? So putting into practice what you've just said.
Share screen on this, but
no need to share a screen. We can just talk through it. So taking into account exactly what you've just said, you visit someone's miniature website on LinkedIn. Let's just give an example, and do not be afraid to constructively criticize, not just criticize. Give me some tips. Give me ways to improve. But what if you were visiting my profile?
If I'm looking at yours, obviously I don't know. In demand gen, are you not directly in sales? Are you? Like, are you going to?
No. So this is purely like, I'm not in sales, but taking into account those tips that you've just said, that within a few seconds you need to know exactly what you do and what you're about, so that you want to read more.
So for me, I actually don't have a clue what looking at the top of your profile, I don't know what Selligence is. So if I don't recognize Selligence, I'm a little bit lost. Like, so
okay, then. So
your banner shows me you've spoken at an event. but it doesn't. I don't have a clue what sector Selligence is. Like, I don't know anything about it. And this is often the way recruiters will say recruiter at and then a company name. But unless I recognize the company name, what use is that? You know? So for me, you want to be like, what sector, who would you like to stumble on your profile? And if they did, you've got to call them out. So for example, if I go back to me, personal and company branding for recruitment agencies. There's absolutely zero, doubt what I do when you look at that. Makes sense?
So let's flip that back to your average salesperson, right? So in their bio, on their profile, they need to be telling people exactly what they
need to be like, this is the niche and the market I operate in and the people I deal with. So if I go to if I look at like a client, one of my clients here, Fiona. So connecting JavaScript professionals, like, it's so clear and simple. And everything will be about React developers is what she specializes in now. So it's like React everywhere. Everything's focused on that market. Is a high-performing development team top of your agenda? Is accessing quickly and easily the best React talent key for your business strategy? Is having a person you can trust who understands the React community to an imperative to help you attract and retain talent? She's asked 3 questions that she wants anyone who stumbles upon this, hiring managers, to go, yeah. If they answer yes to any of the 3 things she's just said, they'll probably end up reading on. Now, if she just went on about how she's 28 and she lives in Sydney and she's originally from here and she loves walks in the park, people are probably going to bounce because they haven't got time. We're all so time poor. We're so time poor that we don't have the time to do that. So it's about, in my opinion, if I stop sharing, let me go back. So in my opinion, if you go to LinkedIn, you want to first, who you want to apply, to see you, who do you want to stumble upon your profile, and then you got to talk directly to them. You've got to be really clear. This is the world I operate. This is my niche. These are the things I know that you're going through, ambition and pain, and this is how I solve it. And if that's there, you can still stick your personal stuff in and make it like unique, but that formula needs to be there for people to go, well, yeah, it's worthwhile connecting with him. Whereas if it just says recruiter at a company I've never heard of, I'm gone. Or salesperson at a software company I don't recognize. I ain't got time to try and figure it out. There's 780 million people on LinkedIn. There's nearly 1 billion. Like, if anyone's bothered looking at your profile, you've done well. You want to make the most of it,
Okay, so step 1 is that digital storefront, that miniature website that we're talking about. People can go and rectify, update that right now, which is great. What is number 2 of the 4 that you mentioned?
So then it's your audience. So who are you connected to and what are you doing with that audience? So how many times a day do you connect with people? You're allowed 100 connections a week on LinkedIn. Are you using that? If you're not, you're missing a trick, because you can have 30,000 connections. You might as well try and get it. You might as well go out and get it. And LinkedIn allows you to connect with 100 people a week. Now, if you're doing it if you're using automated bots and things, you can get blocked for going too fast and trying to break these rules. Just simply every day, go and connect with 20 people. It's dead easy. Go and connect with 20 people.
And are there any things you need to bear in mind when you're doing that? Like you've said that they've got to be relevant to you, right?
Yeah,
you're not just going to just go and...
No, I create a list of people that I would like to connect with and I go and connect with them. Simple. Like, you should know how to create a list on LinkedIn that fits the target audience. If you're in sales, just make sure every day you're connecting to 20 of them, because over a week, that's 100. And then you've hit your quota.
And in doing that, what is that going to do?
Well, if you get a 30 to 40% or 50% connection acceptance rate, then you're going to grow by 30 to 50 targeted professionals in your network every week.
And that then increases your potential reach and the potential number of eyeballs on you.
So what happens is, when they connect with you, you can send them a direct message, and the chances of them, they will potentially see your content. They don't always see your content. It doesn't work that way. But the more you engage with them and they engage with you, the more they'll see your content, you'll see their content. So overall, you're building that chance of that digital stream. So the first pillar is make yourself look right. The second pillar is make sure you're out there growing it. The third pillar is what do you say? You know, I believe you need to be a minimum of 3 posts a week, a minimum. And we're not talking about transactional. If you're in recruitment, all they do is post jobs. I've got a vacancy, I've got a vacancy, I've got a vacancy. It's like, that's transactional. It's not relationship building. It's not adding value. It's not communicating in a community. So I'd say, you know, base your content on what you already know. So the things you're already saying at your desk. So if you're a good salesperson, you're already solutionizing, you're already giving advice, you're already solving problems. Just take stuff that you're already saying and put it on LinkedIn. So if you look at my LinkedIn, it's always based on what's already happening. I never go, I wonder what I could write about and come up with some random idea. I'm not that creative, if I'm brutally honest. Like, some people can write a hilarious video about something, like, crack on. But for the majority of salespeople, we're quite practical. And what we want to do is get on with things. So go back and look at your life, look at your business, look at your desk, look at your client base, your customer base, look at the conversations you've had. I like to look through my diary the week before, and I'll look at the different meetings and I'll think to myself, what's interesting, or what useful information did I give that person, or what challenge did they face that I solved? And by just looking back at my week and asking myself, what happened there? Within minutes, I'm getting ideas of things either they did or said, or things I said or did that I can share to the masses in a story format. And when I do that, people connect with those stories, and people learn from those stories, and people learn from me.
I think that's, I think you said it at the start, that most salespeople, not necessarily that they're not creative, but it might not come easily to them. So they tend to avoid, everyone avoids things they're not great at. Like, so loads of people play golf in the office. I won't touch it because I know I'm rubbish. So what's the point? I think that it's the same sort of, people avoid posting because they assume they're going to be terrible.
Golf don't make you any money.
Well,
no, but if you're not a golfer, it's not going to make you any money. And I don't like Instagram. I don't like Facebook. I'm not saying you've got to love social media, but if you're on LinkedIn, if you're being paid to build your network and to make more money, and you spend hours on it every day scrolling, then you have to do this you're missing a huge opportunity, because everyone wants engagement. Everyone wants responses, high response rates. I'm telling you, this works. Like, the more people see you and hear from you and like what you're talking about, the more they engage. So it really is about taking specific scenarios from your real life and sharing it. Like, again, if I share my screen, I always like that example of Fiona because she's brilliant. And let's just have a quick look at what she writes about. So I'll give you this example here, right? This post was 2 months ago. Can we please stop playing games? Unemployment is at 3.4%. More people than ever are employed right now. So if you think a lowball offer is going to secure that unicorn you've been trying to hire for months, you need a reality check. I spoke to a great candidate yesterday who interviewed at a company he loved. Everything was going great and he was ready to join them until he got the offer through. They dropped the ball massively. They offered him a salary way below his expectations and ended up changing aspects of the job. He went from loving this company and being fully committed to being majorly turned off. They tried to salvage the situation by fixing the offer, but the damage was done. Moral of the story, if you want someone, make a compelling offer to them. Don't try and play games because you will lose them. So that got 500 likes, 50 comments, at least 100,000 views, probably 200,000 views, 200,000 people engaging with it in well above her network. So you've got Fiona's network and then their network and their network, right? She's got 7,000 followers, so it's gone way beyond 10x their network. But people like it because it's true. And people relate to it. And the big thing is, she's used a genuine story. Last week, this is what happened. Like, it's not some theoretical treat people better. It's, I've just dealt with this shit and it's happening too much. We need to call it out. The gravitas that she now brings to the table as a young professional, she's only been in recruitment since 2020. but she's got clients all over the Asia Pacific region buying into the way she thinks, seeing her as a contributor to the community, someone of authority, not just that one recruiter about the one job once. She's someone that people want to be on her good books. They want to work with her. They want to, they buy into her philosophies. And all it is telling a story about something that happened on the phone 2 days ago. So it's not about, there's no fancy video, there's no complex editing, there's no design there. It's just a really simple written piece of content and I'm not saying every post has to be like that, but you can start there. And then once you get confident at writing in those formats, she could just look at the camera and say the same thing. And then it becomes a video where you see her face and her voice. And so the same posts, the same stories, the same ideas can be regurgitated in different ways. And then you're creatively using what you've got. Like most of my content comes from things like this, right? So right now I've got a camera behind my laptop recording this. What I will do is I'll slice this up into 60 videos probably, really short 20-second clips, 30-second clips. That's enough content if I put it out once, twice a week for a year. The rest of the stuff I can do other things, but how easy would it be to jump on Zoom with someone and just chat to them, record it, and then find those, even if you just rewrite the bits you said and it gives you the ideas back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think I was going to say that the example you shared from Fiona was, I think, perfect, because what that shows is all she did was share her point of view on a situation that she was fully part of, fully involved in the last 7 days. And she just shared her point of view, her opinion on what happened, what went wrong, what could have been done differently. And in doing that, she's obviously sharing something that resonates with her ICP, with her peers, something that shows that she is a person in that industry who has, a mind of her own and has beliefs and what they sort of stand for. And all she's done is share a story of something that's happened on a call or whatever in the last 7 days, which fundamentally is very, very easy to do, isn't it?
100%. So then let's recap. We've got your profile's built for conversion. You're going out and you're trying to get people to engage. You're trying to connect with people. You're commenting. Sorry, you're posting. And then you've got to think, are you engaging with others? Are you out there following up on things? Are you actively living and breathing it every day? Because, if you do a post and you get 500 likes, that's 500 people whose name you have access to. They all put their hand up to say they like what you've got to say. So by spending 10 minutes to go through that and think, is any candidates or clients in here that I don't know? Is there anyone I do know that I could maybe re-spark a conversation with? The one thing you can guarantee is that if you do it fast enough, they'll know who you are. Because you'll say, I wrote a post yesterday about how people are lowballing offers and you kindly liked it. Thank you so much for that. What was it about the post that, triggered you to like it? You can start a conversation with someone that can then lead to whatever you want it to lead to. But confidently, again, your partner doesn't want a cold call. You don't have to cold call if you get engagement every day. If people are connecting with you, are following you, are commenting, liking, there's already enough people. As long as you're talking about the right sector and you're building enough influence, there's going to be enough people in there that are putting their hand up to say, I like you and I like your concepts, that you can then turn into business. So,
I've seen quite a lot of stuff. You're talking about commenting and engaging. I've seen a lot of stuff that actually posting is great. Like, be consistent with your posting, but it's almost more important and it carries more weight to engage as if it were a real life situation, because that's what, the platform would deem as a genuine connection or relationship with someone.
Just put it into let's say you go into an event, right? And you were kindly asked to speak. Posting is like just standing on a stage and speaking. Adds loads of value, loads of weight. People can hear you. But if you turn up, speak, and leave without then stopping to speak to people at the end, or even going round to other stalls and seeing other speakers, I don't believe you're going to get the same amount of value from that day at the event. So it's about, I see LinkedIn as just a digital event every day. Every day I get a chance to talk on stage and I get a chance to meet other people and engage with others. And I do it all in about 15, 20 minutes. I don't spend hours and hours doing this. I have a formula that I follow. So that's basically what I've given you a really high level 4 pillars here. But in what I do is for a living and what my business does is we either manage or teach this process And it's a lot more if you really want to do it, it's a detailed process. We give you the templates, the structures, the formulas, and the support and the guidance to really, really consistently do it. The problem that you get a lot of people is they'll do stuff once or twice and they won't see an immediate return, so they'll give up.
That was a question I was going to ask, actually. So you've given these really useful 4 pillars that people can take away, and they can objectively look at their profiles. They can start posting, they can start engaging, they can start connecting with people. What should they aim for in their first, say, short-term month, 3 months, 6 months? Like you said, a lot of people are going to go, I didn't get the engagement I wanted off that. I'm obviously doing it wrong. So what should they expect to see?
Well, the first thing you're going to see is you're going to see an increase in connections and an increase in your own output. So you're going to be putting more out there. You want to see an increase in your own frequency of posting, and you want to see an increase in your connections, and you want to see an increase in your own likes and comments and engagement on other people's stuff, right? So that is in your control. So if you can, it's like going to the gym. I can say I'm going to go and run for 30 minutes a day. I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week. If I go and do that and I wasn't doing that, then I can see my output has gone up. That's the first thing you're going to see. You're not going to look in the mirror after 2 weeks and really see much change. But over 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, every time the compounding impact just keeps growing. So you will see wins. Like, I know people who've made placements and done sales deals inside 4 weeks because they've been really on it. They've connected with someone, they've opened a conversation, they've done the rest. But really, you got to look 3 months before you really start to feel some change, and 6 months before you really, things are growing. Expectation is you'll get more engagement, it'll start to grow, you'll get more likes, you'll get higher response rates, people will start replying to you, and you will start to open up business opportunity off the back of it if you follow it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's almost like I track for marketing, I track what I would call a positive signal, which is anything that it suggests that something is working. So like you said there, generally don't look at it sort of at a granular level, a post, but month to month, you want to be increasing the number of engagements, increasing the number of connections month on month. And as long as there is a positive trend.
And it's sometimes flatlines, like in the gym. Sometimes you can train for a year and then you don't improve that much for 3 to 6 months. Then you have to shake things up a bit. That's normal. That happens, But most people listening to this are in the early stage. So let's get you to a point where if you can post 3 to 5 times every week and you can spend 15 minutes a day on LinkedIn engaging with people, and you do that consistently for 3 to 6 months, you're going to see a huge impact. You're going to see massive. When you've been doing it for a year, you might then think, well, what's next? Could I look at, podcast creation, live streaming, event hosting, whatever? There's different things you could do to then take your content game and your output to a new level. But as a bare minimum, sharing stories based on your life 3 to 5 times a week and just engaging with the people in your network and keep growing it. That'll get you where you need to be in the next 12 months.
Amazing. I think look, what I was hoping to get out of this chat was a really top level starting point that people can take away with them today, and even set 30 minutes aside this afternoon, look at their profile, start thinking about some stories that they could tell from the last 7 days. So just to recap, number 1 is your LinkedIn profile. Does it say effectively and concisely exactly what you do and what offer you can provide, what value you provide? Is number 1, that miniature website, which is your LinkedIn profile. Number 2 is connecting with people. You can connect with up to 100 people a week. So 20 a day, people that are relevant to your day-to-day function, are going to be beneficial to, I guess, also beneficial to making your personal branding, social selling easier. So people you could learn off, for example, people that could inspire you. 3 is posting. And I think you said 2 to 3 times a week. Start small, just tell stories.
You want to be looking at 3 times is like the minimum expectation.
And is there a optimal Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
If you're doing 3, yeah. If you're doing 3, I'd do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But I do 5 Monday to Friday. I don't do anything at the weekend. I could do, but I don't want to.
And when you're doing those Monday, Wednesday, Friday posts, do you suggest people? I know it's obviously whatever works for people, but should they write all 3 at once and schedule them in with some free scheduler, or do they just spend 10 minutes writing a post on a Monday?
I would always advise at the beginning, probably sit down and just do them all at once and then just copy and paste them onto LinkedIn. But if you find that you can Monday, Wednesday, Friday, spend 10, 15 minutes, then do that. But at the beginning, it's easier to put in one session, get your mind into that place, and then you've done it for the week. It's an hour max, 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how good you get. And then once you put them out, pillar 4 is follow up and engagement and be all over it. Checking the people that engage with you and checking, are you engaging with the people that you're connecting with, and making it so that it becomes that fluid conversation. Because it's if you just post and then sit there and wait for it, it'll take a long, long time. Whereas from the first post, you can start to follow up on it and start to turn it into stuff.
And I think I was just going to say that when you said, if you spend 30 minutes, an hour on it a week, and people might be thinking, but where am I going to get an hour from, right? My day is completely stacked already. But the important thing to remember is that investing that 30 minutes or an hour is going to make the rest of your week potentially more efficient.
You got to find the time. That's the bit I don't really care about when people tell me they're busy. I'm like, cool, everyone's busy. If you value it, you got to find the time. You got to put it in the diary, and you got to stick to it. If you override it with other activities every time, because you'll never get anywhere. Just like the gym, and it's really similar to fitness. If you really want to get fit, you have to go out and train. You've got to go to the gym, or you've got to go running, or whatever you got to give yourself that time. If you keep going, I'm busy, and the kids are this and this, that, the other, and work's busy, then you'll be blaming it for the rest of your life. That's about personal accountability. That no one else can do that for you.
Yeah, it's a level playing field. Everyone's got busy lives, right? So it's those that take the time to build and grow, develop, learn, that are going to succeed.
Yeah. Those that value this now and are investing now are going to make the most of LinkedIn, and are going to be in a great position in a few years. Those that keep pretending this doesn't matter and they focus on just picking up the phone, it's going to get harder, because it's only going one way on social. It's only getting more. We're only getting more dependent. We're doing loads of research on TikTok at the moment, because I've kind of been someone who didn't want to get into TikTok. I didn't want to engage with it. I don't really like Instagram, and I think a lot of it's just complete nonsense and very superficial, and it's about how you look necessarily, what you're saying. But TikTok there's no denying it is appealing to that younger generation, and that's increasingly appealing to people in their 30s and 40s. So we're investigating that now so that we're not left behind. There's people ahead of us, but there's a lot of people more people that are just not even looking, just ignoring it. Whereas if you want to be in business for the next 10, 15, 20 years, you have to think a bit further down the line. If you're retiring in 2 years, then crack on. Do what you've always done. But I've got no plans to retire anytime soon. So I've got to make sure I'm safeguarding and thinking ahead. But LinkedIn right now is the most important platform to sales and recruiters, without a doubt.
And I think that is a great comment or great sentence to finish on. So thanks for jumping on podcast this week. I'm sure we will have you back on. Aaron is definitely coming back on as well. So hopefully people have found those 4 actionable pillars interesting. Keep an eye out for the YouTube video. And yeah, thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, and if you can attach links to, our services, people can reach out and have a chat. We're happy to have a one-on-one chat with you and give you our opinion and tell you about how we actually help people, because, for some people, you can take four pillars off a podcast and you'll be fine, whereas others need that handheld, and we can do that. But thanks so much, Jamie. Enjoyed it. It's nice to be on the other side. I'm obviously recording podcasts every week myself, so to be...
Yeah, so how many episodes have you done now on the RAG podcast?
230, I think.
And I think I saw it in your what you were talking about earlier about that LinkedIn bio. The first thing that you say is got to almost sell yourself, right? And I think you said, off the top of my head, what's it, 17,000?
20,000 plays a month on average we get. Yeah. So it's it's a really important part of my strategy. I love it. I enjoy the people, enjoy the stories. The thing about podcasts, you don't know who's listening. It's bonkers. I messaged a guy in LA 2 days ago, following my own process. Look, he liked one of my posts. I looked on him on LinkedIn. I've been connected for about a year. I don't know him, never spoke to him, sent him a note saying, look, I think you could improve your LinkedIn. Would you have a chat? And he goes, yeah, can I speak tonight? He's like, I've listened to all your podcasts, love them. I definitely need your help. Now, he could have reached out to me, but but just by liking a post, that was all it was. It was enough for me to check it that day and make that call. And we pitched, we've got a decision today. Hopefully he'll be joining the community. So that comes because my podcast is out there and I haven't got a clue like that. People listen to the new ones, the old ones, all sorts. But it's so much fun and it's been a pleasure being on the other side of it. So yeah, if you want me back on, just let me know. I'll make it.
And just to finish, I think this could be a very, very interesting thing for people to hear. I've got 2 questions. Can you give me, just in some top level figures, how successful building your personal brand can be, just from your perspective on your profile? You've spent all this time building your brand. Give us some figures. Like you said earlier about the number of views, right?
Yeah. So like financially, it depends on your market, your deal sizes and all those things. For me, the whole of Hoxo's business has basically been built on my brand. Like now it's like we're building other people, Aaron and stuff, but still about 80% of all the business we win, we're doing 2.53 million a year purely from my LinkedIn account. It's nuts. Like I've got a client, Kyle Winterbottom, in 2 years, he's made £1 million of inbound business from his LinkedIn account. That company where Fiona works, Precision Sourcing in Sydney, they made 10 million in gross profit last year. 20% was tracked back to their LinkedIn accounts from the work they've done.
I'm going to say Fiona's going to be loving you after this episode of the podcast.
I check her profile about every 5 minutes because I'm always using her as an example because she's so cool. She does such a good job. But yeah, ultimately every day you have an opportunity to impact your business and your revenue. So it's kind of how much you want to apply to this once you understand it. I do 5 posts a week. I could do 10. But I think the diminishing return after 5 isn't worth it. But Jamie, I've got to shoot as well for another meeting. But thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I hope people enjoyed it. If anyone wants to connect with me on LinkedIn, Sean Anderson Hoxo, drop me a note. We can have a chat.
Brilliant. Thanks for jumping on and we'll chat soon.
Legend. Cheers, mate.